If you have held on to 1,000 Bitcoin for this long and you want to go monetize that, 80,000 Bitcoin for this long, and you want to go monetize that, it's billions of dollars, Yeah, okay. How can you fault that? Go buy your chateau or your yacht or whatever that you're looking for and fund that lifestyle that you want, that you've held out for. Great, whatever. No big deal. But I think that some of these whales that are selling are turning around and saying, they're like, look, I've had 100, 200 or whatever X on my money already. I want to get to, like, right now, yeah, we may get a 10x in Bitcoin. I believe we get a 10x in Bitcoin over the next 7-8 years.
Some of the earliest Bitcoin whales have already turned a few $1,000s into billions. They're buying yachts, estates, and living the lifestyle they waited years to afford. But while they're cashing out, the real opportunity is just beginning. Bitcoin's next 10x is already on the horizon. September is living up to its reputation as one of the most unpredictable months for Bitcoin. Analysts see the potential for a climb toward $125,000 before the end of the month, though downside moves closer to $100,000 remain on the table. That wide range shows how fragile sentiment is right now. One place where this is obvious is in ETF flows. US spot Bitcoin ETFs have been seeing steady outflows, which usually signals investors pulling back or taking profits. At the same time, Ethereum ETFs have been seeing a pickup in inflows, suggesting that some of that money isn't leaving crypto entirely, it's rotating into Ethereum. That shift hints at changing investor priorities, with Ethereum being seen as an asset with stronger near-term potential or utility. Macro factors are also hanging over the market. Traders are waiting on US job data and the Federal Reserve's next decision on interest rates. If the Fed loosens up, liquidity improves, and that usually benefits risk assets like crypto. If the Fed tightens, it can do the opposite. These reports often act as short-term catalysts for volatility. Whale activity adds another layer to the picture. Large holders have started selling parts of their positions, but not in panic. These are wallets that have been accumulating for years, now taking billions off the table to diversify portfolios, buy real assets, or fund their lifestyles. James Lavish noted that this doesn't mean they've lost faith in Bitcoin. Many of these same investors continue to believe Bitcoin has the potential to grow by 10 times in the years ahead. Their actions are more about using gains in the present while keeping a strong position for the future. For long-term holders, that belief in major upside means staying patient could prove the most rewarding. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video, as James Lavish breaks down why Bitcoin could still climb 10 times from here.
A big part of what you're seeing is these big moves that are on light volume. And so what we see is somebody who goes and wants to build up a big position. They're gonna have to move the stock or the Bitcoin price or the treasury price, because there's not a lot of volume out there. So this weekend and into today, we're seeing these large enough moves, multi-percent moves in Bitcoin. Sounds like a lot, $3,000, but it's really only 2.5%. Not that big of a deal for Bitcoin. But there's not a lot of volume, Brandon. It's like it's more of a buyer strike than a tsunami of sellers, So that's one thing. I think that Powell wants to solidify his legacy that he got the job done. He did not let inflation rage out of control, although it did rage, and it got nearly got out of control. And it was because of what the Fed did. Let's make that clear. They caused this problem. But he did put the fire out, and he wants to cement his legacy there. Now, the question is, what words does he use to do that? And, I believe that he's going to come out and he's going to say that we're getting comfortable with the trajectory of inflation. We're more concerned about jobs, which means that it opens the door for a 25 basis point cut in September, which is a really big deal for stocks and risk assets and things like Bitcoin and gold, because it's an expansion of liquidity, basically. You make the cost of capital lower. which is good for those kinds of assets and securities. And so, but I do believe he leaves the door open. And what you're seeing right now is some uncertainty around how he's going to come out this week. What kind of numbers are still coming? Because we still have another CPI, another PPI, another PCE. We got more unemployment numbers between now and the next September meeting, and he could change his mind like that. And so there's probably some uncertainty going on, and Bitcoin's definitely sniffing that out and getting a little nervous here. Again, on very light volume. I think that the data is giving Powell enough air cover, especially on the employment side, that he could ease by 25 basis points. And it's not that he's giving in to Trump. If he was giving it to Trump, he'd ease 50, because that's what Bissett just demanded. For all intents and purposes, again, he didn't tell him to do that. He said that the models are showing that we're 150 basis points, like 1.5% above neutral, which I think is aggressive. I think we're maybe 1% above neutral. But regardless, whatever models you're using, we are above, and we could ease. But and I think that it's time. And so the markets are starting to tell you that. And the stock market will suffer if Powell comes out this week and he's tremendously hawkish, if he's terribly hawkish, and he does not keep the door open for a rate cut, you're going to see a drawdown in the market. That's my opinion. I believe it's pretty obvious though. But I think Bitcoin and some of the tech stocks are getting nervous here. You had not great earnings this morning from some of the tech leaders, and so the Qs are off, and the S&P is kind of dragging a little bit, and Bitcoin is leading the way. It continues to be the tip of the risk spear. I don't believe it should be, but it is, and we just have to recognize that. People have to get their heads around that, especially the maxis, who I agree with them that it shouldn't be, but it is right now because it's considered that way. And it's going to continue to trade that way until further notice. Well, I mean, we've seen whales selling. We saw a big whale sell 80,000 Bitcoin just a couple of weeks ago. Price barely moved. That's good news. Now the question is, are they selling to go fund a lifestyle that they've held out for? Which, hey, God bless. If you have held on to 1,000 Bitcoin for this long and you want to go monetize that 80,000 Bitcoin for this long, and you want to go monetize that, it's billions of dollars, yeah, okay, how can you fault that? Go buy your chateau or your yacht or whatever that you're looking for and fund that lifestyle that you want, that you've held out for. Great, whatever, no big deal. But I think that some of these whales that are selling are turning around and saying, they're like, look, I've had 100, 200 or whatever X on my money already. I want to get to, like, right now, yeah, we may get a 10X in Bitcoin. I believe we get a 10X in Bitcoin over the next 7-8 years. That's nothing like I've experienced up to now. The OGs, the whales that have been around for a long time. And so I think some of them want to remain in Bitcoin, but they want to get a little bit more out of it in this space. And there's a way to do that. The way to do that is to buy these Bitcoin treasury companies, because they'll give you what will be a multiple on that return, I believe. Now, not all of them, some of them, a handful of them will do very well, I think. That's my thesis. It's the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, that my hedge fund, that's what we believe. And we're invested in some of these because we believe that. Not all of them. We're not invested in every single treasury company, but we're invested in a select number of them that we believe in. So I think that there's some rotation going there, Brandon, that's coming out of Bitcoin, going into these treasury companies, and is being washed back into Bitcoin as it happens. That's why you're seeing the price kind of grind sideways, higher, a little bit lower, sideways. It's kind of grinding here from 100 to 120. It's been in this range since May, basically. It dipped down a little bit in June, but since May, it's been in that range. It was in the 100 to 110 level, and then it moved up in July from 110 to 120. It's been between there and 110, 111, somewhere in there since the beginning of July. And I think what you're seeing is this rotation out, some OGs that are moving out of Bitcoin and into the treasury companies. And some of them are joining boards and doing that stuff and creating these treasury companies themselves. I mean, Adam Back is doing one.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is working to present inflation as under control after its recent spike. Many expect him to shift more attention toward employment, which could include signaling a modest rate cut. That would matter for Bitcoin and stocks alike, since cheaper borrowing tends to support investment. Even so, upcoming economic data could shift expectations quickly, and traders are staying alert. Meanwhile, on the Bitcoin side, some large holders have sold significant amounts, yet the price hasn't moved much. This points to the possibility that funds are flowing into Bitcoin treasury companies, public firms that raise money and add Bitcoin to their balance sheets. These moves have kept prices steady, hovering between $110,000 and $120,000 for months. In some cases, whales are even stepping into roles with these companies, showing that investors are exploring ways to capture Bitcoin's growth beyond simply holding it in wallets. Let's go back to James Lavish as he continues his discussion.
So first of all, the MNAV that you're talking about, the multiple on the underlying Bitcoin on their balance sheet, that's MNAV, the multiple on the NAV of the Bitcoin on the balance sheet. We've seen these things fluctuate around. We started buying MicroStrategy when the MNAV was 1.2. But we talked to them. We talked to Michael and we talked to Sharish, their treasurer, who helped implement this strategy, was spearheading it for them. We understood what they were trying to do and what their goal was and what their goal is. And so, we still believe that. He's created all kinds of strategies around it. So MicroStrategy is a kind of a special situation because they're so far ahead of everybody else. They've got over 600,000 Bitcoin now. And so, and they've got access to capital markets that other companies just don't have. Not all of them, some of them do. CEP 21 certainly does with the involvement of Cantor and Jack Mahler's new play there. But there's all kinds of different ways that these companies can create the ability to buy more Bitcoin. And it's using converts, which can actively dampen the volatility. Well, it actually dampens it holds the price of the stock down, because as you issue a convert, there are convert arbitrage traders that will buy the convert and then short the stock in order to delta hedge it, and like what's called the optimal hedge around owning that convertible bond, because it can be converted into stock at a certain price, so they'll trade around that. Or you could do preferred shares like MicroStrategy is doing, and that is not dilutive to the stock. It doesn't put pressure on the stock, because you're basically saying that we're going to pay you a dividend off of the future, basically the future price of Bitcoin. And so that's a special case. But there are other cases, like Metaplanet came out and was basically the only proxy for Bitcoin in all of Japan. So if you were a retirement account or an investor that wanted to buy Bitcoin but couldn't get it into your brokerage, you could buy Metaplanet and get a proxy to that. And now they're doing a similar playbook to MicroStrategy, and so they're able to create a way to arbitrage the capital markets. You're borrowing money in yen and you're buying Bitcoin with it. It's an arbitrage, and so they will warrant a different multiple. They have a different kind of moat there, because there's not another proxy for buying Bitcoin there like that. So that's a strong moat. It could change. We don't know if and when, but that's more of a regulatory issue. Then you've got the same thing in other areas, whether it's Brazil or Canada or the UK. You've got similar situations, and so there are companies that were invested in those areas because of that. Then you get the question of what you're saying is, what MNAV makes sense? And it is different for each one. And it really depends on a lot of the factors that you named. Do they have a moat? Is it a geographical, regulatory moat? Is it that they have great access to capital to expand their balance sheet? Do they have an original investor in and partner in their venture, like CEP does with Tether, 21 does with Tether? Is there something like that going on? Who is the CEO? Can they generate enough interest, and can they lead that strategy to that Bitcoin treasury strategy to do that? That's another question mark. And we believe that these things are going to settle in somewhere around 1 to 2.5 MNAV for virtually all of them. There may be outliers like Metaplanet that will be higher. But what we're seeing here, in my opinion, Brandon, is people figuring that out and trying to shake out who should be trading at what MNAV according to what they believe how much Bitcoin yield they can generate, meaning how much of an MNAV should they trade at because of how much more Bitcoin they can create in their balance sheet per shareholder. There's going to be a maturity process here in all of these companies. And in the companies who do add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. So you hit on something that's important. Let's kind of unpack this. 21. Okay, so MicroStrategy is they basically said they're executing a financial engineering strategy to get more Bitcoin on the balance sheet for their shareholders. That's all they've said so far. I do believe that they're going to get big enough that they can do other things with that Bitcoin. They have not laid out a plan for that yet. Michael's a smart guy. He's going to figure out ways that they can capitalize that and keep growing this company. He wants, to eventually be the biggest company in the world. Why not? And he eventually will be if he sticks with the strategy and Bitcoin does what we think it's going to do. 21 explicitly came out and said they're going to be a Bitcoin finance company. They're going to structure products around it, lending products, collateralized products, so that is different. That is what they're headed to do. That's their goal. It's a different strategy. Metaplan is much more along the lines of a Japanese version of strategy, of MicroStrategy, doing the same kind of financial engineering. And then you've got other companies that are looking to use cash flows to fund this Bitcoin treasury. This is really important, and this is something that we have not seen be rewarded yet, which is real companies with real cash flows using those cash flows to buy Bitcoin and add to their treasury. That has not been rewarded yet. The current reward is financially engineer Wall Street out of dollars to use those dollars to put into Bitcoin. And so arbitrage that capital market. That's been the big play so far. I do believe that eventually we get to this point, Brandon, where people realize that the best play long term, once this has been kind of soaked up, the capital markets play, the arbitrage play, it's going to be using cash flows to buy Bitcoin and put it on your treasury. Ultimately, the ultimate goal, I think, sign of maturity of this space is when you have companies that are S&P 500 companies that are not just the Apples and Microsofts and Googles of the world, but eventually they are doing this, where they are cash cows. You're creating billions of dollars, and they're turning around and buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin with that.
As James Lavish explained, the multiple on the net asset value, or MNAV, of Bitcoin on a company balance sheet usually settles between 1 and 2.5 times. MicroStrategy drew investor attention when its MNAV reached about 1.2. The company also showed a clear long-term plan. It now holds more than 600,000 Bitcoin and also enjoys stronger access to capital markets than most competitors. The firm expands its holdings through convertible notes and preferred shares. Convertible notes can slow a stock's rise because traders often hedge by shorting when they buy them. Preferred shares work in a different way. They pay dividends linked to Bitcoin's future price and do not dilute existing shareholders. In Japan, Metaplanet has become a Bitcoin proxy. It borrows in yen to buy Bitcoin and creates an arbitrage opportunity while giving local investors a path into the market. Other regions such as Brazil, Canada, and the UK also have proxy firms. Each one benefits from specific rules and capital access in its own country. The MNAV of these companies depends on leadership strength, market position, and the ability to raise fresh funds for new purchases. MicroStrategy aims to remain the largest Bitcoin treasury company, but others such as 21Co plan to build out financial products like Bitcoin-backed lending. And from this, another opportunity may arrive. Companies with strong cash flow could begin buying Bitcoin directly. That would mark a move beyond financial engineering and into a new stage of corporate adoption. Do you think this shift toward direct Bitcoin buying will accelerate mainstream adoption? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want to stay most up to date on the crypto and Bitcoin world, subscribe to my daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a concise resource for the latest expert predictions, breaking news, and top on-chain analysis, trusted by over 90,000 subscribers for insightful crypto investment information. Don't miss out on the opportunity to stay informed in the crypto market. The link is in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it gave you some value. I'll see you all at the next one, and as always, all the best.